Hi everyone and welcome back to Tennis Time. It's been quite a while since I've been recording. It was at the beginning of the Madrid Masters. I've made a draw preview at the time. In order to catch up with everything what has happened throughout the clay court season, in this video I'm going to have different segments. First, I'm going to talk about the Madrid Masters, about the most interesting matches that unfolded, the most interesting stories. Second, I'm going to talk about the Rome Masters, which is sort of connected to the Madrid Masters. After that, I'm going to look at the clay court Masters, all the clay court Masters which have been played ahead of the French Open since 2005. Then I'm going to talk more about in detail how Nadal, Federer, Dominic team, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Novak Djokovic, Andy Murray and Alexander Zverev have fared along those clay court Masters right ahead of the French Open. Then, since Nadal is the 13th-time French Open defending champion, I'm going to look a little bit more in closer on his record. Also going back to 2005, the first year where he's ever won the French Open. I'm going to look at the preparation tournaments he's played since then and in which year, how many clay court match losses he's had, especially on the biggest tournaments, meaning the Monte Carlo Masters, Barcelona, formerly the Hamburg Masters, Madrid, Rome. And last but not least, I'm going to look ahead of the French Open 2021. I'm going to look back throughout the whole 2021 clay court season, starting in Marbella and the Cagliari Open, Spain, respective Italy, then going through the Monaco Masters, Barcelona, Belgrade 1, Munich, Estoril, the Madrid Masters, Rome Masters, Geneva and Lyon Open. There's still two more tournaments, two 250s events left, but I don't think those two have too deep of a bearing ahead of the French Open. The final segment is going to be, I'm going to look at each player who have reached at least the semi-final stages of any of these clay court tournaments. I'm going to look how many clay court tournaments each player has won, how many finals or semi-finals, how many semi-finals have they played, and what is their match record, how matches have they played, how many matches have they won. Alright, so let's dig in. First, Madrid Masters. So the Madrid Masters was quite of an interesting event. After the Monte Carlo Masters, we had a very new champion in the name of Stefanos Tsitsipas. So the big question was, since he has won the Monte Carlo Masters and he's reached the Barcelona final where he's lost in a very, very tight match against Rafa Nadal, where he's also held match points, couldn't convert, lost in the end to Nadal. How is he going to fare in the next Madrid Masters, where he's done well in the past? He's reached the 2019 final. He has beaten Nadal there in the past, in the 2019 semi, lost to Djokovic in the final. So in the Madrid Masters, we had no Djokovic, but we had Nadal as the top seed. If we look a little bit at the draw, the way the matches, the second round matches have been played. So one of the big stories of the tournament where Nadal is meeting Carlos Alcaraz in his first match. Alcaraz had a first round which he has had to contest first. He's passed Adrian Manarino, and Alcaraz was so lucky to play Nadal on his 18th birthday. As you can see, the scoreline was quite severe, 6-1, 6-2. I've talked about Alcaraz in the past. I think he's a very promising prospect. If you've seen the first few games of the match, I think you had to be impressed. Alcaraz was right in there. He sort of had an abdominal injury scare at the beginning of the match, which sort of went away, but somehow that broke the rhythm of the match. Sometimes you did see flashes of Alcaraz, what he's capable of, he can be a fantastic shot maker. He can be a great defender. I think he has great prospect to be one of the best players. I think he's going to be really good on clay, especially if he manages to be even a little bit more patient, and he's going to be able to manage his patience along the way. Another match which was interesting to watch, Medvedev against Davidovich Fokina. Davidovich Fokina, the young Spanish player, 21 years old, good prospect, has shown some good form this year. Medvedev coming back from COVID and who definitely doesn't like the clay. Well, Medvedev did do reasonably well for his first match, but in the first set it was quite strange. I mean, he was complaining so much. That's not really the attitude you want to see from a great champion, complaining and whining all the time because he doesn't want to be out there on court, and he doesn't like clay. Nonetheless, he's won his first match. Another big story of the tournament was Dominic Thiem coming back after basically he hasn't really played. Shortly after the Australian Open, he's played one more match or two more matches, but he hasn't done well. And it was interesting to see how he would come back. And he had to face Marcos Giron in the second round. Giron had to play Pablo Andujar in the first round, and Giron played a great match. He won 7-6 in the third against Andujar, so I think he was pretty tired, and it was a good match for Thiem to come back. I wasn't really sure how he would come back, and I wasn't really sure in his abilities and his willpower, but he seemed really fine when coming back in that first match. I think one of the most interesting matches of the around the 32 were Zverev against Nishikori. So Nishikori had some sort of a 3-1 lead in the first set, and Zverev didn't really look back after that, lost only 2 more games. With Zverev, it was a little bit touch and go. You didn't really know where he was at. The week before in Munich, he lost to Ilya Ivashka. He wasn't playing well. The week before that, he wasn't playing well either, so it was quite of a surprise to see him play so well against Nishikori, and that was only a first sign of things to come. Other matches in the upcoming rounds, which were quite interesting. So I wanted to talk about the Isner-Rublev match. So Andrei Rublev, Monte Carlo finalist, beating Nadal in the Monte Carlo Masters quarterfinals. Definitely expected to do well here. John Isner somehow sort of John Isnered him. He served him off the court, and he was lucky enough to get in the third set tiebreak, even though Rublev won throughout the entire match more points. Isner was just on key in the important moments, especially in the third set tiebreak, and he's managed to edge that match out. Another big match was here, Casper Ruud playing Stefanos Tsitsipas in the third round, in the round of 16. So I thought that would be an interesting match, and it was. Tsitsipas wasn't playing badly, Ruud was playing really well, and he's shown us why he's such a good clay court player. I was still a little bit surprised about Tsitsipas going out, but given the fact how well Ruud was playing, after all, it wasn't a bad loss. You couldn't say Tsitsipas lost a bad match, and after being so high in Monaco and Barcelona, he hasn't done badly, even though he lost to Ruud. Another match I wanted to talk about was Thiem against Isner. So I just talked about the fact how well Isner was playing in the key moments against Rublev, and in the round before that as well. I think he managed to pull out a third set tiebreaker there as well. against Roberto Bautista Agut. And he started off well against Thiem, so he's broken Thiem once and he didn't really look back anymore. He was serving so well. In the second and third sets, Thiem has done really well to hold serve, not to drop serve, and managed to break once to get those sets. So I thought, okay, Thiem is really in there and he's doing well. So the break has done him some good. He's a guy who knows how to cope with a longer period of layoff, and he's off and running now. That's what I thought at the time. Another big match which is worth mentioning is the Zverev against Nadal quarterfinal. So surprisingly, Zverev winning in straight sets 6-4, 6-4. Nadal started off well. He led with a break. I think he was even 4-2 up in that first set. After breaking through, the next game he wasn't playing well. He missed a few relatively easy shots, and Zverev somehow got in the groove. He was serving really well. Given the fact that Madrid is played on higher altitude, I think the balls are flying through the air a lot quicker. That helped him on that day very much. Nadal wasn't playing particularly well, making more errors than he's used to. So in the end, it was somehow of an understandable victory for Zverev. Zverev, even though it's Madrid and it's high altitude, but nevertheless it's the first victory of his against Nadal on a clay court. This was his third straight victory against Nadal, so that was a big thing. The next match I wanted to talk about was Zverev against Thiem. Since Zverev's beaten Nadal and Thiem has managed to get to the semi-finals as well. This was a highly anticipated semi. This was basically a repeat of the 2018 final, where Zverev has won in 2 straight sets. Nonetheless, after seeing how Thiem has come back, you would have expected a great match. Well, in the end, it wasn't a bad match, especially that Thiem in the latter stage of the second set, after being 2 breaks down, has broken once back, and he's really made a match out of that match. But in the first set and a half, Thiem wasn't really there. Zverev wasn't playing as well as he was against Nadal, but he was still holding strong. He was serving well. He was hitting his ground strokes in a quite solid way. But Thiem wasn't really there. I mean, I thought at the time, okay, maybe given the fact that he was away for such a long time and then he's come back and he's played 3 tough matches and he's playing the 4th, maybe wasn't really up to it physically, mentally. It was a drain on him to play now all of a sudden in the semis of a Masters. So in the end, it wasn't a particularly beautiful match to watch. On the other hand, Berrettini against Ruud in the other semi, that was a great match. Both players really playing well. Ruud continuing the form he's shown against Tsitsipas. Berrettini continuing the form he's shown the tournament prior to Madrid, where he's won the Belgrade 1 Open, where he's played Karatsev and has beaten Karatsev 7-6 in the third set, deciding tiebreaker in Belgrade, as I said. So he was riding on that form, and Berrettini, big serve, big forehand, really going for his shots. So it was a pleasure to watch that match, and he basically dominated Ruud in that semi. And looking ahead of the final, Zverev Berrettini, that was really looking like a very interesting match. Given the fact how Zverev plays and his game style on clay compared to Berrettini, you would have thought Zverev is the favorite. On the other hand, the way Berrettini was hitting the ball, the way he was going after his shots, the confidence he seemed to have, it was not unimaginable for him to win that match, and the same scenario has played out in the first set. He was so much up in the first set tiebreak, then it got back on level terms, then he edged that tiebreak out to 10-8 eventually. But he faded a little bit in the second set, and consequently in the third set even more, I think. So he just couldn't keep that level up throughout the entire match, and credit to Zverev, he played well. He really did. Not too many service errors. Solid off the backhand as he usually is. Solid from the forehand as well. This Madrid court surrounding setting seems to suit him. This was his second Madrid Masters victory after the 2018 one. This is not necessarily a pure tennis story, but maybe you've heard that after the final in the press conference, when he was finished with the English questions, normally in the questions come in the country's language where you're from, so he's representing Germany. There were no German questions. A little bit of a strange, awkward situation, given the fact that there's some investigation going on Zverev regarding the abuse allegations. There is some tension around the air around Zverev with this topic. I would really like to see that topic closed, whether it's true or not true. I think the sooner the better for everybody who's out there and is watching Zverev, supporting or not supporting Zverev, to have a clear understanding for everybody what really has happened there. Okay, so this is about the Madrid Masters. Moving on to the Rome Masters. The Rome Masters is a tournament which was sort of dominated in the last decade and a half by Nadal and Djokovic. Nadal winning 9 times, Djokovic winning 5 times. So there's your story. It was interesting basically for Nadal and for Djokovic as well to do well in the Rome Masters, considering the fact that even though Nadal has won the Barcelona Open, but you're all accustomed to the fact that he's winning at least one of the Masters tournaments ahead of the French Open. He's lost in Madrid to Zverev in the quarters. He's lost to Rublev also in the quarters in Monaco. He's won Barcelona, but to his own admission, he wasn't playing at his peak. So it was interesting to see how these players would fare. For Djokovic, he's played only Monaco and Belgrade. He skipped Madrid. And he's won just one match in Monaco. He's beaten Sinner, lost to Dan Evans afterwards. And in Belgrade, he lost in the semis, surprisingly, to Karatsev in one of the most spectacular and one of the longest matches of the year so far. 3 hours, 25 minutes, 6-4 in the third. It was a great match. It was really a pleasure to watch. Nonetheless, Djokovic has not won that match. He's lost that match, so it would have been interesting to see how he does in Rome. Is he really peaking ahead of the French Open or not? So what's happening there? Well, let me take you through that. So in the first match for Djokovic against Fritz is the guy he's picked up that injury against in the third round of the Australian Open. Fritz is a big hitter. Fritz is not particularly well known for his clay court game, but he's had a fairly good clay court season so far. He's had 250 at the very first tournament of the year on clay. In the Italy Cagliari Open, he's reached the semi-finals. So he had a little bit of match practice and a little bit of confidence on clay, I suppose. And he's really made a match out of it. So Djokovic was serving at 6-3, 5-4 in the second for the match. He's lost it. Then the rain came. They had to go off for a long break, something like 2 or 3 hours. And he's come back and he's managed to edge out a tiebreak against Fritz. So it was a good start for Djokovic. Nadal, on the other hand, as the number 2 seed, he had a very, very tough first match against Jannik Sinner, which he mastered 7-5, 6-4. It was a tough match, I have to say. Sinner played really well. This was their first encounter since the French Open last year in October. Sinner was the first to break. He was twice a break-up in that first set. He was a break-up in the second, and Nadal came back each time and came out on top. Medvedev, after his Madrid journey, losing in his second match, now going out quickly against Karatsev. The team against Fucsovic match was also an interesting one, so Fucsovic, I think, should have won that match. He was 3-1 up in the second set, so with a break lead. He could have won the tiebreak as well, but after he didn't, he just faded away. So again, team is winning a few matches, but he's not particularly convincing. So after Madrid, and after seeing him play against Fucsovic, I'm not really sure where he's at. So he could be okay for the French, but he also could not be okay for the French and go out early. I really can't tell. Tiago Schwarzman, so last year's Rome finalist, losing in his first match against Felix Auger-Aliassime, 1-3. So Schwarzman is definitely not in a good form. And one of the other surprises, maybe it's not a surprise, but not sure which the right adjective for this one is, but definitely something you need to watch out. Riley Opelka beating Lorenzo Musetti 4-4 in the second round. It was a sign of bigger things to come. Okay, so going forward, other matches which were interesting to watch. Opelka against Karatsev. So Karatsev, after his convincing win in the previous round against Medvedev, and now going out to Riley Opelka. We had a repeat of Zverev against Nishikori in Rome after the great match we had between the two in Madrid, where Zverev was quite dominant. This time, Nishikori made it to be quite close, but in the end, it was Zverev who was stronger. Even though Nishikori had a lead in that third set, Zverev somehow just picked his game up, picked himself up, and he's shown that he can be really, really powerful on the clay court, and he's put Nishikori away 6-4 in the third. Tsitsipas Berrettini was a highly anticipated encounter here. Berrettini just coming off his final appearance in Madrid. Tsitsipas just proved to be a little bit strong in the first set, playing that tiebreak, winning the key moments. And he was definitely the stronger one in the second. Berrettini fading a little bit away in that second set, 6-2. Probably one of the best matches of the tournament in Rome, and there were quite a lot of those, was Lorenzo Sonego against Dominic team. So Sonego winning the first set, team edging out that second in a thrilling tiebreak, then going all the way into the third. Then first Sonego was up a break, then team broke back, and then he was up a break, and he was serving for the match actually, and then he's gotten broken back. They went in the tiebreak. Team was down in the tiebreak, but played two incredible backhand winners. You had the impression that he's really back in it. Then loses it eventually 6 points to 5 in the tiebreaker. So this was the point where I was starting to feel a little bit disappointed about team, given the fact that these are the matches which build players like him up again. He's a great fighter, he's a great clay court player. He was doing many times the right things, but he didn't really seem to have the attitude or the confidence that he's in the right place, he's doing the right things. His body language was weird. Like he didn't really want to be there. I'm not sure I'm right about this. But this was the impression I got from him. Okay, another and this is probably the highlight of the tournament, Nadal against Shapovalov. So that was a great match, a fantastic fight. 3 hours, 38 minutes, 3 sets, okay? So they start off, Shapovalov is having a fantastic start. He breaks Nadal twice, he holds twice in a row, so he's 4-love up in the first. Nadal gets one of the breaks back, but Shapovalov carries on the good form, proves to be too strong in that set, takes it 6-3. In the second set, Shapovalov carries on with the same form. He breaks Nadal, he's 3-love up, so it's 6-3, 3-love to Shapovalov. What happens? Well, Nadal turns the tide, somehow. He gets back in that second set, and he wins it by 6-4. I had sometimes the impression a little bit that this is similar to the Rublev match, to some extent, because Rublev was really dominating Nadal, and even though Nadal won the second set against Rublev, where he lost in the end 6-2 in the third in Monaco, here it was the same thing. Shapovalov seemed to be the more dominating player, even in the second set, but Nadal has done the right things to edge it through. So it was interesting to see what would happen in the third set. The third set was quite different compared to the Rublev-Nadal encounter in Monaco, so it was a lot closer. Nadal said in the press conference after the match that being a set down and 3-love down, the score didn't feel right. So there were a lot of close games, and most of those close games went the way of Shapovalov, and that's why he was so much ahead. So he felt like he had to turn that around, and he did. So in the third set, it was quite close. Shapovalov was having a few match points in the end. Nadal managed to save those on his own serve, and when they went into the tiebreak, it wasn't that close anymore in the tiebreak. Nadal has managed to win it 7-3. But definitely, this was one of the best matches I've seen in Rome throughout this year, for sure. Another one of the matches which need mention, Sonego against Rublev. So you would have thought that Sonego against a team that would take a lot out of him and he would go away. He lost the first set against Rublev, but he's won the next two. One of the big factors, also in the match with team, but here even more so, the crowd was on his side. It's just 25% capacity or something like that, but they were really loud and supporting him like crazy. And I think that helped him tremendously in his match against Team that was played quite late in the evening. The crowd had to leave in the early stages of the third set, so he was pretty much by himself. But here against Rublev, he had the crowd all the way throughout the entire day on his side, and that really propelled him into the next round. The interesting thing here with Sonego against Rublev was that this was a quarterfinal, right? And the quarterfinal had to be played on Saturday because on Friday it was just too much rain and they couldn't finish the matches. So even though Sonego won, he had to have a difficult opponent the same day, later on the same day, during the same day, against Djokovic or Tsitsipas. But that's again another story for itself. But first we had the Nadal Swerve, that was a quarterfinal which was finished on a Friday. So it was a repeat of the week before's quarterfinal in Madrid. And this time it was Nadal who was playing better. I think Zverev was still at the high level, and he really made it a very competitive match, and especially in the first set, where Nadal was serving for the set, Nadal fell. So he was running toward the drop shot. He slipped on the service line while sliding, and he really took a tumble. So you didn't know what was going to happen with him. Is he going to be alright? But fortunately enough, he just bumped his hip basically a little bit hard, and he was able to continue and serve that set out. In the second set, in the early stages of the second set, there was a segment of 3 games where it was so close, and Nadal has reminded us why he's called the King of Clay. So he's playing these really close games, and in the end he managed to get the break to come out on top of on his own service games. He could have dropped those games. It was a little bit like when he was playing against Shapovalov, and Shapovalov was winning those closely contested games early on all the time. Well, now this has changed, and he was the one who was winning the majority of those closely contested games against Zverev. And then he did serve that one out in the second set as well, holding on to his break and taking it home 6-4. The Djokovic-Tsitsipas quarterfinal that was started on a Friday and finished on a Saturday. So Tsitsipas was starting off really, really strong, especially after his wins against Berrettini, riding on confidence, breaking Djokovic, winning the first set. Then they had sort of a longer break, then they came back, the match continued on Friday, and Tsitsipas was off to a good start again. He had a 2-1 lead with a break in the early stage of the second set, and then the rain came again. They couldn't finish it, so they came back the next day and started early in the day. And Tsitsipas was continuing in a good form, so he was consolidating his break. He was 3-1 up. In the end, he did lose his break advantage, and they held close until 5-all, and Djokovic held serve to go 6-5 up, and Tsitsipas was serving for the tiebreak to get into a tiebreak. he lost his service game, and pretty much a very similar story happened in the third set. Tsitsipas was sort of up, and then he just... Sometimes I felt like he was unlucky, but on the other hand, Djokovic was working so hard for some of those points, and he earned his luck, Djokovic did. So again, when Tsitsipas was serving to get into tiebreak in the third set at 5-6, he lost his serve again, and Djokovic won the match. I think at the beginning, when I was starting to talk about the Madrid Masters, and this was an important milestone for Nadal and for Djokovic to see where they're at ahead of the French Open. So Djokovic has definitely shown that he's on the right track and he can win close matches again on clay, and Tsitsipas was definitely one of the hottest players on the tour, especially now on a clay court after winning Monte Carlo. So it was a good test and a good tick for Djokovic to have. Now we had the Djokovic against Sonego semis that was played later in the day. Nadal played his semis against Opelka, who surprisingly has managed to get into the semis. It was just a little bit too much for him. Nadal just too strong on the clay, winning 4-4. And Sonego, after beating Rublev, and Djokovic, after finishing his match against Tsitsipas, a grueling match, both had to play the semi-final on the same day, later in the day, so that match went pretty much late into the evening. That was also one of the best matches of Rome. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I don't think I am. We really had some fantastic matches in Rome this year. So again, Djokovic came out firing. I had the impression he really doesn't want to spend too much time on court. He wants to be fit for the next day's final, especially given the fact that he has to play Nadal. He's played the second part of the Tsitsipas match earlier in the day. He didn't want to spend too much time in the evening against Sonego. Well, things really did went according to plan in the first set. Djokovic coming out really strongly, pushing Sonego hard, breaking him once. He could have broken him even more times than once. But it was a good, quick set. It wasn't even 40 minutes, winning it 6-3 in the first. The second, that was a much closer set in the early stages already. And it was very hard for Djokovic to break through. Sonego was playing so well. He really was. And Djokovic was serving for the set and for the match, essentially. And that was the point where Sonego finally has managed to break back. He's broken back. They went to a tiebreak, and although it looked like Djokovic would take it, he didn't, and Sonego has won that tiebreaker. So you can imagine, even though a 25 capacity crowd, but it was an Italian crowd, everybody going wild, supporting Sonego. I think in the end, the experience had a lot to do what happened in the third set. Djokovic was the stronger man. Sonego playing team, playing Rublev, playing so many tight matches, grueling matches. I think it did catch up with him in the end, although it didn't really look like he was physically tired. But I think in the end he did fade a little bit away. So that brought us back to a Nadal Djokovic final, the world number 1 against the world number 2. We had so many Nadal Djokovic encounters in Rome. Nadal winning the majority of those, but Djokovic had probably one of his best wins on clay against Nadal in Rome. So he's edged him twice in the final, and that didn't really happen too many times, not even against Djokovic in a clay court match or a clay court final. So you could see that both were back on track ahead of the French Open. Either way, no matter which of these guys would have won it, you knew they are definitely a contender after their performances in Rome at the French Open. I think Nadal winning the final in the end was just the culmination of the fact how well he's played, how many tough moments he managed to overcome, especially in that match against Shapovalov, the way he's managed to beat Zverev after losing him to Madrid. The domination he already had in the semis against Opelka. It was sort of a culmination of those efforts that he's won that final. The final itself was pretty interesting, because I had the impression that Djokovic was physically and mentally right up there, and he's kept a high level throughout. So in the first set, the difference between the two was very small. Djokovic was the first to be up a break, then he's lost that break advantage, but Nadal does have this style of playing on clay with a lot of confidence, and he likes to strike the ball a lot of times with his forehand, going to his opponent's backhand to spin it, move opponents around and finish them off. Djokovic does have the ability to break this pattern many times, and I think he succeeded many times throughout the entire first and second sets to break that pattern. Nadal's level still kept at a high level in the first set. That's what he's won him the first set. In the second, Djokovic's level remained the same, or maybe has risen just a little bit, and he was now able to finish points quickly against Nadal, not letting Nadal going in too many rallies. Nadal missed more than he did in the first set. His level dropped a little bit, and that made a 6-1 second set for Djokovic possible. In the third, at 2-2, Djokovic had the opportunity to go up quickly with the break. I had the impression that at 2-2 Djokovic wanted to pull the trigger like he did in the first set against Sonego, or like he did at times against Nadal in that match in the second set. But it didn't work out. He couldn't break, he's got broken right after that. Nadal has gotten in this groove, like nobody can beat me now, and I'm feeling good and I'm feeling high. Djokovic tried to pull the trigger, maybe a little fraction too early, but I think if he would have managed to get the break, then the match could have had a different outcome. Nonetheless, I think this was a good confidence builder for both players. Okay, so this is the end of the Rome segment. Now in the next segment, I'm going to look ahead of the French Open preparation tournament history, basically. I'm going to look at the bigger tournaments, the Monaco Masters, the Hamburg/Madrid Masters, and the Rome Masters 1000. So these are the three clay court Masters which are played ahead of the French Open. So if you look at the screen here, I've tried to color code it a little bit so it's easily recognizable to everybody. So if you look at Nadal, this is his performance at the Monaco Masters. So many times where he's done well here, he's won the French Open as well. You can see Federer playing the final many times. Djokovic winning here twice, and this year it was Tsitsipas with one. So here you see the winners, here you see the finalists. This is Hamburg and Madrid. Since starting with 2005 up until 2008 it was Madrid. After that it was Hamburg, and since 2009 it got switched to Madrid. So Hamburg, Madrid. And also Rome. You see the utter dominance by Djokovic and Nadal since 2005. Only Murray and Zverev managed to win once since 2005, so that's quite impressive. And here you can see the names. So the guys who normally do here well also do well here over here at the French Open. So color code here or there, I think this is not really telling you or showing you the story I want to tell you, so I made some additional stats here. So if you look specifically at Nadal, he's won Monaco 11 times, Madrid clay he's won 4 times, Rome he's won 10 times, and the French 13 times. So he's been in the Monaco final once, where he's lost, Madrid 3 losses and Rome 2 losses, both coming to Djokovic. This is by far the most impressive Grand Slam appearance. So I'm saying that wrong. So this is by far the most impressive clay court performance of any player ever. Federer and Djokovic, the records they have on clay is also really impressive. Djokovic is even more so than Federer's, because if you look at it, he's won 5 Rome, 3 Madrid and 2 Monaco titles. So that makes it 10 Masters victories. He's won the French Open, in quotation marks, only once. And finals he's had in Monaco 2. He's never lost the Madrid final, and he's been 6 times in the final in Rome. So losing 6 times, and 4 French Open finals which he's lost. 3 of them to Nadal, 1 to Wawrinka. So if you look even at Murray, so winning Madrid once, winning Rome once, being in the French Open final once, 1 more Rome final and 1 more Madrid final. So compared to Dominic Thiem, who is held or regarded as one of the best clay court players nowadays, if we don't necessarily take into consideration his poor performance this year, even before that. So look at this. He's played the Madrid Masters final twice. So his Monaco, Madrid, Rome appearances are relatively poor considering the fact that he's reached the French Open final twice. This is interesting. So this would tell us that even though throughout the years he's just managed to reach two clay court Masters finals, nonetheless he's reached the French Open final twice, the semi-final 2 more times. It doesn't necessarily have to be an indicator of his performance at the French Open, so maybe we'll see something similar this year. But let's wait and see. I mean, even Zverev's record at clay court events is better prior to the French Open. Look at this. He's won Rome once, he's won Madrid twice, and he's had one more Rome final. The French Open, no finals, no semi-finals either. But who knows, maybe this year it will be different. If you look at Tsitsipas, so he has two finals. He's won one in Monaco, and he's lost one in Madrid. So relatively good results on clay in the last 2 years, I should say. He's reached the semis last year. Given the fact how well he's played throughout this clay court season, I think he's really one of the top contenders for the French Open this year. So one other thing I tried to look at was a winner of a Masters 1000 ahead of the French Open, winning the French Open. What's the pattern there? So 9 out of 16 times in Monaco. 9 times when the player has won, Monaco has won the French Open. That's mostly because of Nadal. Once the finalist in Monaco has won the French. 6 times when somebody has won Madrid out of 12 has won the French Open. 8 out of 16 times in Rome when somebody has won Rome has won the French Open. In Madrid, once the finalist winning the French Open, and in Rome 3 times out of 16 the finalist winning the French Open. So I know these are just stats, and I'm looking at history, and history doesn't have to repeat itself all the time. But the probability of somebody winning Rome and Monaco is a higher indicator that they're going to do well at the French Open. So that means Tsitsipas winning Monaco this time and Nadal winning Rome this time. I think they're going to be right up there. So something else I wanted to look at, given the fact that especially at the beginning of this clay court season there was a lot of talk about Nadal's performances. He's not particularly doing well at clay events, and losing in Monaco and losing in Madrid, and this is not the Nadal we used to, and all kind of stuff and talk like that. So I wanted to show you, and I wanted you to have a look at the performances he's had on clay since 2005, since when he's won his first Masters event on clay, and since he's won his first French Open. So if you look at this, so in 2005 and 6, he wins Monte Carlo, he wins Barcelona, and he wins Rome. And he wins the French Open. In 2007, in he wins Monte Carlo, he wins Barcelona, he wins Rome, he wins the French Open. The only exception is he's played Hamburg, the Hamburg Masters as well, and he's reached only the final. So he had a loss in the final of Hamburg against Federer in 2007. So in the first 3 years out of these tournaments, he's had only one loss, and he was won the French Open every time. 2008, wins Monte Carlo, wins Barcelona, wins Hamburg, where he loses out at Rome. If I remember correctly, he's lost to Juan Carlos Ferrero, and he had sort of a foot injury, but he recovered for the French, and he's won the French. So here you can see one loss against Ferrero. 2009, only one loss ahead of the French Open in the final of Madrid. He wins Barcelona, he wins Monaco, he wins Rome, and he loses out in the French Open against Zverev. So that was a big surprise. So in 2010, he has no losses whatsoever. So this is mightily impressive. He wins Monte Carlo. He decides not to play in Barcelona. He wins Madrid. He wins Rome. And he wins the French Open, and he beats Zverev in the final, the guy he's lost to the year prior in the 4th round. So 2011, this is a year where he has 2 losses, 2 big losses on the clay ahead of the French Open. So he wins Monaco, he wins Barcelona, he loses in the final of Madrid and Rome, back-to-back to Djokovic. So this is the first time he loses to Djokovic on a clay court, and there's a special because both are in Masters 1000 finals. Nonetheless, he plays Federer in the final at the French. He avoids playing Djokovic because Federer has beaten Djokovic in the semi prior, so he wins the French Open. 2012. So what happens in 2012? He has only one loss in Madrid. That's the year when Madrid was played on the blue clay. Wins Monte Carlo, wins Barcelona, wins Rome, wins the French Open. 2013 gets a little bit tricky. He loses the final against Djokovic, but he wins Barcelona, he wins Madrid, he wins Rome, and he wins the French. So really very dominant in 2013. The only hiccup against Djokovic in the final of Monaco. 2014, so now this is a year which gets more interesting, because this is the first time ever you see Nadal lose 3 matches on clay ahead of the French Open in these big preparation tournaments. So he loses in the quarters of Barcelona and Monte Carlo, both. He loses to Ferrer in Monte Carlo, he loses to Almagro in Barcelona, and he loses in the final against Djokovic in Rome. Nonetheless, he goes on, wins the French Open, beats Djokovic in the final in 4 sets. So 2015 is one of the worst years he's had altogether, and you can see this on clay as well. So he loses to Djokovic in the Monte Carlo semi. He loses to Fognini in the 3rd round in Barcelona. He loses the Madrid final against Murray. Very surprising, this is his first loss against Murray on a clay court. And then he loses out in the quarters to Wawrinka in Rome. And then he loses in the quarters of the French against Djokovic. So definitely 4 losses ahead of the French Open is the most he's had where he did not win the title. 2016, so very good start, wins Monaco, wins Barcelona, gets to the semis in Madrid, and he loses to Murray again, and loses out in the quarterfinal in 2016 to Djokovic. So only 2 losses, goes to the French Open, wins first 2 matches, and has to pull out and cannot play the 3rd round because he has a serious wrist injury. So that is playing the rest of his season in 2016, and I don't think this is really conclusive because he just couldn't finish the French Open. So going ahead in 2017, he has that sort of a resurrection where he wins Monte Carlo again, he wins Barcelona again, he wins Madrid. He loses out in the quarters against Dominic Thiem in Rome, but wins the French Open nonetheless. He beats Thiem in the semis at the French in 3 straight sets. 2018, what happens? He loses just the one match ahead of the French Open in the quarterfinals of Madrid, again against Thiem. Wins Monaco, wins Barcelona, wins Rome, wins the French. And this time he beats Thiem in the final of the French. So 2019, maybe this is a little bit similar this year to the 2021 year. Just a little bit. So Nadal loses 3 matches on clay ahead of the French Open. He loses in the semi-final in Monaco against Fognini. He loses in the semi-final in Barcelona against Thiem. He loses in the semi-final in Madrid to Tsitsipas. Then he wins Rome. He's beaten Djokovic in the Rome final, and then he goes on and wins the French, and he beats Thiem in the final. So last year we have a very strange situation. He has just one loss against anybody, against Schwarzman as a preparation tournament in Rome, but nonetheless wins the French. We didn't have Monaco, we didn't have Barcelona, we didn't have Madrid. All were cancelled. Only the Rome Masters was played ahead of the French Open. And he's won 2 matches, then lost to Schwarzman in the quarters. Nonetheless, wins the French, beats Schwarzman in the semis, and beats Djokovic in the final. So now, 2021 comes along. First loss in Barcelona, first loss in Monte Carlo against Rublev. So here, he bounces back and wins Barcelona, beats Tsitsipas in the final, then loses again to Zverev in the quarters of Madrid, but then has this fantastic run in Rome and beats Djokovic in the final. So that begs the question, is Nadal the favorite for the French Open? So given the track record he's had, and he's had only the 2 losses in the end, eventually ahead of the French Open in 2021, and given the way he's won Barcelona and he's won Rome, to me, he's most definitely the favorite to win the French Open. Although, I know anything can happen. He can have a wrist injury again, he can have a bad match again, something can come up, a Söderling can come up, he can be pushed out of the French Open. However, the possibility or probability of that is, I think, quite low. He's won, as you can see in this stat, since 2005 up until now, today, 38 tournaments, counting Monaco, Barcelona, Madrid, and Rome, and Hamburg. So that's quite fantastic, I think. Okay, the final segment of this video is looking back at the clay court season of 2021. So you can see Cagliari 250 and Marbella 250 played at the same time. We have winners in Sonego, Carreño Busta, and Laszlo Djere and Raume Munar playing the finals. These guys reaching the semis. Big thing for Carlos Alcaraz, playing his first semi-final at the ATP Tour level. So Monaco, winner Tsitsipas, finalist Rublev, Casper Ruud in the semis, Dan Evans in the semis. Barcelona, Nadal Tsitsipas final, Nadal winning, Carreño Busta and Jannik Sinner. Jannik Sinner, first time for him in a semi for 500 on clay. Belgrade, we have Berrettini Karatsev winning, Taro Daniel losing out in the semis against Berrettini, and Karatsev beating Djokovic in that semi. Munich, Basilashvili winning in Germany again after his 2 Hamburg titles in the past. Struff making it for the first time in a final of an ATP event at the age of 31, loses out to Basilashvili. Ruud again doing well in the semis, and Ilya Ivashka, the guy who's really had a good match against Nadal in the opening stages of the Barcelona tournament. Almost puts out Nadal, but not just. Beats Zverev in Munich and reaches the semis. Estoril. So Albert Ramos Vignolas is one of his best tournaments throughout the year. He beats Cameron Norrie in the final in a tight 3-setter. Cilic making a resurgence on clay. Davidovich Fokina making a breakthrough, reaching the semi. So the Madrid Masters, I've talked about this. Zverev beating Berrettini in the final. Ruud again in the semis. Thiem on his first comeback. Relatively good result, discounting the disastrous matches played against Zverev. Rome, I've talked about it. Fantastic tournament, probably the best tournament of the year so far. Nadal, Djokovic in the final. Opelka and Sonego reaching the semis. Geneva is interesting because we had the comeback of Roger Federer on clay. He's played Pablo Andujar in his first match back. He was the number 1 seed. He had a first round bye. Andujar played some good matches throughout this clay season. Has taken the first set against Federer. Federer really bouncing back strongly in the second, having a 4-2 lead in the third. Andujar just too strong in the end, in the sense that he had a lot more match practice and he was a little bit safer with his shots, not making too many mistakes in the end, and he's broken Roger twice and has taken 6-4 in the third set. So sadly for Federer out in Geneva. He wanted probably a stronger and better preparation because he's playing the French Open. The French Open for him is going to be a preparation for the grass season ahead of Wimbledon. That's why he sees his best chances to win. I think Federer's played a good comeback match. Andujar was just a tick stronger. I think if Federer cuts out those errors and gets a little bit more match practice, which he actually could get at the French Open, he could do quite well there. So Andujar reaches the semis after putting out Federer. Also does Pablo Cuevas. Casper Ruud winning now, not just the semi-final but a win at the Geneva Open, beating Shapovalov in 2 straight sets, but it was a really close final. And Lyon parallel played to the Geneva Open. Musetti reaches the semis, loses to Tsitsipas. Khachanov reaches the semis and loses out to Norrie. Norrie, a second appearance in a final. Norrie loses the final to Tsitsipas. So we still have 2 matches, two tournaments to be completed this week, Belgrade and Parma. These are just 250 events. I'm not feeling that this is too much of a consequence for the French Open. The only interesting thing about Belgrade is that Djokovic elected to play. The week ahead the French Open, it seems that he's going to play Belgrade. This is quite unusual for him the week before Slam. He has done it before, but let's see if this helps his preparation for the French. So finally you can see the tournament wins. So out of these players, everybody who's reached the semi-final on a clay event, starting with the Cagliari Open this year. Nadal has 2 tournament victories, so does Tsitsipas, because after winning Monaco, Tsitsipas has just won Lyon, a 250 event. So these are the guys with the most match wins. Tsitsipas has 16 matches won, Nadal has 14 matches won, Tsitsipas the 3 losses, Nadal just the 2. Zverev winning the Madrid Masters, Ruud winning in Geneva and playing 3 semis. So play in form, winning 15 matches, losing the 4. Sonego winning Cagliari and reaching the Rome final. He has a 9-2 win-loss record. Carreño Busta, the 1 tournament win in Marbella, another semi. Berrettini, 1 victory in Belgrade, the Madrid final, 10-3 match win-loss record. Basilashvili, 1 victory, 1 semi, and the last player winning a tournament on clay this year is Albert Ramos Vignolas from Estoril, making another semi, and he has a 10-4 win-loss record. So the other ones you can see here have reached at least 1 final. or one semi-final, and you can see the respective win-loss records they've posted this year so far on these tournaments. As I said, the last two tournaments not of too much consequence, I think, as a preparation for the French Open. So basically this is my review of the 2021 clay court season ahead of the French Open. Please let me know what you think, comment down below, and see you in the next video.